New school, new bullies, same girl raised by a fighter who taught her how to end things fast. They clocked her the moment she stepped off the bus. Zariah Coleman wasn't dressed like the other girls. No designer jacket, no trendy backpack with monogrammed initials. Just a plain black hoodie, jeans, and a cheap canvas bag slung over one shoulder. Her curls were pulled back into a loose puff. No gloss, no glitter. And when she walked through the gates of Franklin High in Little Fort Collins, Colorado, she didn't look impressed. She looked tired, focused, like she had somewhere to be and didn't have time for nonsense. And that alone was enough to make her a target. Most of the students were used to new kids coming and going, military families, academic transfers, all that. But Zariah was different. This wasn't just someone new. This was someone who didn't shrink when she walked past cliques, who didn't fake smile in the cafeteria, who didn't try to fit in. The fact that she was black in a school where barely anyone else looked like her, that just made her stand out more. Mr. Granger, the history teacher, gave her a warm, welcome first period. "Class, say hello to Zariah Coleman. She's joining us from Indiana," he said, motioning toward the empty desk in the second row. Zariah gave a small nod and walked to her seat. No smile, no extra words. Some of the students murmured greetings, most just stared. And in the back row, 3 girls exchanged looks. Addison, the ringleader, blonde, confident, and never without her phone. Tinsley, the quiet one with a sharp mouth when no adults were around. Bailey, the follower who laughed a little too hard at everything Addison said. They didn't say anything out loud, not yet, but Zariah could feel the heat of their eyes on her back. At lunch, Zariah sat alone near the end of the long outdoor tables. She took her sandwich out of a brown paper bag and scrolled through her phone like she couldn't care less. But she noticed everything. She saw the way people stared just long enough to register something unfamiliar. The way Addison's group walked past her table slowly, waiting for a reaction that never came. They didn't know her story, but they already didn't like her. That night, Zariah sat at the edge of her bed in her aunt's apartment. The walls were still bare. A few boxes were unpacked. Her aunt, Marcia, was in the kitchen cooking and humming something soft and old school. It smelled like baked chicken and collard greens. "You good, baby?" Marcia called out. Zariah didn't look up from her phone. "Yeah. You talked to anybody yet?" "Nope." Marcia sighed, drying her hands on a towel. "You know you can't just go through life fighting shadows." Zariah finally looked at her. "I ain't fight nobody." "That ain't what I mean, and you know it." They held each other's gaze for a second longer than usual. Then Marcia turned back to the stove. She didn't push. She never did. Zariah was like her brother, quiet, proud, and full of fire that didn't show until it had to. Zariah went back to scrolling. She had survived worse than this, but Franklin High had no idea what just walked through its doors, and the girls in the back row, they were about to find out the hard way. The game started small. That's how it always begins. The next day in the hallway, Zariah opened her locker and a wad of gum stuck to her fingers. A fresh pink glob, still warm. No one was around. No one said a word. Later in chemistry, her textbook was missing. She knew she left it on the desk. Addison smirked 2 rows back, whispering something to Tinsley. Bailey let out a fake cough that sounded suspiciously like, "Oops." Zariah didn't flinch. She just raised her hand and asked for a new copy. Her face stayed still, but her hands, tight fists in her lap. Most students would have complained. Most would have told a teacher. Zariah didn't, because Zariah had been through much worse than high school games. She wasn't the type to cry in the bathroom stall. She was the type to watch and wait. But Addison wasn't used to that. She was used to breaking people down fast, especially new girls who didn't have anyone. She didn't like confusion. She didn't like quiet. So, Addison pushed harder. In gym class, during dodgeball, Tinsley threw a ball right at Zariah's face. Didn't even pretend it was by accident. Zariah caught it, her fingers tightening around the red rubber. Her eyes locked on Tinsley. "You got a problem?" Zariah asked calmly. Tinsley blinked. "What?" "You heard me." Coach McMillan blew his whistle. "Girls, keep it clean." Zariah didn't say another word. She turned and walked off the court. But she felt it. Something shift in the air. A few kids who'd been pretending not to watch. They were now watching every move she made. At lunch that day, Addison finally approached her directly. "Hey," she said, standing over Zariah's table like she owned the whole patio. I think it's cute how you keep sitting out here like you don't want to make friends." Zariah didn't even glance up from her phone. "I'm good." Bailey laughed, overdoing it. "She's good," she repeated. Addison leaned down. "You're not from around here, are you?" "Nope." "Yeah, it shows." Zariah gave her a slow, deliberate look. "You done?" Addison smiled sweetly. "Not even close." That night, Zariah said nothing to her aunt. Just showered, did her homework, and went to bed with her headphones on. She played one of her dad's old fight videos. Grainy footage. Her father, bare-knuckled in a dim gym, dodging punches like poetry. When he knocked the other guy out, the crowd barely made a sound, but Zariah still mouthed the words under her breath. Hands up, mind sharp, feet light. She never forgot those lessons, and she never forgot what her dad told her after her first real fight at 9 years old, when a girl on the block yanked her braids and pushed her into a mailbox. "You don't gotta fight every time," he'd said, squatting down to her level. "But if they insist, you end it quick. No yelling, no screaming. Just make sure they don't forget your name." Zariah never looked for a fight, but she also never lost one. And even though Franklin High was a world away from Southside Gary, Indiana, it was starting to look familiar. The next day, the locker was tagged, a single word scratched into the paint with a paperclip: trash. Zariah stared at it, didn't move. Behind her, Bailey giggled and whispered something into Addison's ear. Addison smiled like she already knew what was coming, but what she didn't know was that Zariah had already decided. She was done waiting, because when silence doesn't work, movement speaks. Franklin High saw a quiet girl with no friends. What they didn't see was what Zariah carried behind those eyes. She grew up on 6th and Harrison, where sirens sang louder than birds, and sidewalks had names from the memorial candles lined up on them. Her mom died when she was 4, hit by a stray bullet, walking home from the grocery store. After that, it was just her and her dad, Elijah "Smoke" Coleman, a former amateur fighter with a crooked nose and hands that could still break brick. He didn't smile much, but he loved hard. They didn't have a lot. Some months, dinner was just butter noodles and Kool-Aid, but what they lacked in money, her dad made up for in grit. He made sure Zariah knew how to protect herself, physically and mentally. He didn't raise her to be loud, he raised her to be ready. "People talk, let 'em, that's wind," he used to say. "But if someone lays hands, that's when you teach respect." She was 10 when she learned how to slip a punch, 12 when he let her spar for real. By 14, she could tap out boys twice her size at the local gym. He always made her swear one thing, though: never start it. "Never start it," she repeated every time. "But if it starts, I finish it." That was the rhythm of her childhood. Then, one night, everything stopped. Her dad collapsed on the gym floor during a spar. Heart gave out. No warning, no chance to say goodbye. Zariah didn't cry for days. She just sat on the couch watching his fight videos, mouthing the same phrases he used to whisper before every match. Hands up, mind sharp, feet light. When her Aunt Marcia came to get her, Zariah had one duffel bag and 3 pairs of shoes. That was it. They moved to Colorado because Marcia got a job teaching at the community college in Fort Collins. Zariah didn't complain, didn't argue. She just packed her stuff and left the only world she'd ever known. But the fight? That never left her. She carried her dad in every move, every breath. His voice echoed in her ear whenever someone tried her. She never wanted to use it, but the muscle memory was always there. She had tried to play it cool at Franklin High. She really did. Kept her head down, focused on grades, ignored the whispering, the stares, the gum, the missing books. But then came the scratches on her locker, and that fake spill in the cafeteria. Bailey accidentally dropped her tray right next to Zariah's shoes, splattering marinara across her jeans. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," Bailey laughed, eyes sparkling like it was hilarious. Addison covered her mouth and turned away like she wasn't laughing. Tinsley didn't even bother pretending. Zariah stood up slow. Everyone in the lunchroom watched now. For a second, it looked like she was going to say something, but she didn't. She just stepped over the mess, grabbed her bag, and walked away. People called her weird after that. Quiet, off. Some said she was stuck up. Others thought she was just scared. But one girl, a junior named Imani, noticed something else. "I don't think she's scared," she told her friends. "I think she's waiting." Zariah didn't want to fight, but every day these girls kept picking, kept testing, and they had no idea they were playing with someone who didn't fight for fun. She fought because that's how she was raised, and they were just about to hit the limit. It happened on a Tuesday, gym class, second period. The locker room was hot, loud, full of slammed doors and sneaker squeaks on tile. Girls changed quickly, gossip floating through the air like dust. Zariah, as usual, kept to the corner. She changed fast, t-shirt over her sports bra, leggings pulled tight, and shoes laced with the same precision her father taught her for hand wraps. She was almost out the door when Addison blocked her path. "Oh, wait, Zariah," Addison said, fake surprise in her voice. "You dropped something." Zariah looked down. Nothing there. Addison smirked and dumped a small bottle of lotion into her gym bag, white cream oozing into the lining. Tinsley and Bailey burst out laughing. Zariah stared at it. Still no emotion on her face. Still quiet. "You're welcome," Addison said, stepping closer. "Might help with the ashy thing you got going on." Bailey covered her mouth. "Oh my God." Even the girls who weren't involved started looking up now. A few froze. They weren't used to seeing this kind of thing go this far. Zariah slowly zipped her bag closed. She looked at Addison, calm, measured, like she was doing math in her head. Then Addison made one more mistake. She poked Zariah's shoulder. Not hard, not aggressive, just enough to send the message, "Do something." Zariah looked down at the finger, then up into Addison's eyes. "You sure?" she asked, quiet but clear. Addison rolled her eyes. "Sure about what? You sure you want this?" The room got quieter. The energy changed. Even Bailey stopped laughing. Addison stepped back half an inch. "You don't scare me." Zariah tilted her head. "Good." Then she moved. It wasn't a wild swing or a screaming match. It was fast, calculated. Her dad would have been proud. One step in. Elbow to the ribs. Addison folded like paper. Tinsley lunged forward. Zariah slipped sideways, caught her leg, swept it, and dropped her clean on her back. Bailey froze, hands up. I wasn't... Zariah didn't touch her, just stared. Bailey backed away fast, slipping on the bench and scrambling out of the room. Coach Hernandez burst in seconds later. Hey, what the hell's going on?" Zariah stood still, breathing steady. Tinsley groaned on the floor. Addison was curled up against a locker, holding her side. "I asked her if she was sure," Zariah said, voice flat. Coach's eyes bounced between the girls. "In my office, now." The whole locker room was silent. Word traveled fast. By lunch, everyone knew. Videos had already started circulating. The angle was shaky, but it showed enough. The precision of Zariah's moves, the fact that she didn't start it, and the way she handled it like she'd done this before. Some kids were shocked. Others weren't. Amani leaned over to her friend and whispered, "Told you." She was waiting. Addison didn't show up to third or fourth period. Bailey was crying in the nurse's office. Tinsley left early with a bag of ice and a bruised ego. Zariah? She sat in the main office, arms folded, expression blank, like she was already 2 steps ahead. Principal Myers called her in. "You know we have a zero-tolerance policy," he said, leaning forward. "I didn't hit first," Zariah replied. "You still engaged in physical violence." I asked her if she was sure. "She's bruised. Her parents are going to want answers." "I got answers," Zariah said, meeting his eyes. "You just don't want to hear them." He didn't respond to that. He just leaned back, tapping his pen against the desk. "You'll be suspended. 3 days. Zariah nodded once. "Cool." Marcia picked her up in silence. She didn't ask questions until they got home. Zariah dropped her bag by the door and went straight to the kitchen, poured a glass of water like it was just another Tuesday. "You good?" Marcia asked, arms crossed. Zariah nodded. "Yeah." "You want to talk?" "No." Marcia sighed. "You didn't have to do all that." Zariah finally looked at her. "I did, though. Because sometimes silence ain't peace. Sometimes it's just the warning before the fire." The next morning, the whole school was buzzing. Not fake interest, not gossip for fun. People were shook. Not because Zariah fought, but because of how she fought. Calm, clean, no yelling, no hair pulling, just straight skill, like she was made for it. Coach Hernandez told the teachers in private, "That girl's had training. That wasn't no street fight. That was tactical. By second period, kids were watching the video under desks, headphones tucked under hoodies. She didn't even look mad, someone whispered. Did you see how fast she moved? She folded Addison in two. Meanwhile, Addison stayed home. Her mom sent a long, furious email to the school board, said her daughter had been attacked, assaulted, humiliated. Principal Myers forwarded it to district staff before calling a meeting with the counselor, 2 assistant principals, and Coach Hernandez. But the footage didn't lie, and neither did the whispers, because for the first time in a long time, people started asking the other question. Why did Addison's group keep messing with Zariah in the first place? Turns out, it wasn't their first time. They'd made a girl cry last semester. Another one switched schools completely. The teachers knew about the mean girl thing, but it was always hard to prove, always brushed off. But Zariah? She wasn't easy to brush. While she served her 3-day suspension, something shifted. A few teachers started checking in on other quiet students. The counselor scheduled a group session. Addison's crew got pulled in separately. No one said the word racism out loud, but it hung there, heavy. Even Bailey started crying during second lunch and told a para that she didn't know things would go that far. Meanwhile, Marcia sat Zariah down on their 3rd night home. Look, she said, pulling a chair up close. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I am. But baby, you gotta learn when to strategize, not just react. Zariah didn't respond. You think you scared them? Marcia asked. Yeah, you did. But you also scared the people who could have been on your side. Zariah stared at her. You want me to apologize? I want you to think, Zariah. Think about the long game. Zariah rubbed her forehead. I was thinking, she said, her voice low. I've been thinking every day. I thought about it when they trashed my locker, when they dumped food on me, when they put gum in my hair last week and I had to cut it out in the bathroom before algebra. Marcia's lips tightened. I tried walking away, Zariah continued. I tried not saying nothing, but it kept happening. So, no, I didn't snap. I chose. Marcia looked down. She didn't have a comeback for that. On Thursday, Zariah returned to school. She walked through the hallway like nothing had happened. But everything had. Amani was waiting by the lockers. You good? She asked. Zariah nodded. You? Amani smiled. You got the whole school talking. Some people scared, but some people? They finally see you now. Zariah opened her locker. The word trash was gone, cleaned, repainted. On the inside of the door, someone had taped a small note. Sometimes you gotta break silence to be heard. Respect. No name, just that. Zariah folded it and slipped it in her pocket. Coach Hernandez caught her before gym. You ever think about trying out for the girls' wrestling team? He asked. Zariah raised an eyebrow. They got that here? We do now. Because once truth hits the floor, people stop pretending not to see it. By the end of the week, Zariah wasn't just the new girl anymore. She was the one people didn't mess with. But more than that, she was the one people started to understand. Addison returned the following Monday, still acting like nothing happened, but the attitude was gone. Her voice didn't carry the same weight anymore. People looked at her differently, like they were seeing the cracks now. She passed Zariah in the hallway between classes. For a split second, she hesitated like she might say something. Apologize. Ask a question. Anything. But Zariah didn't stop walking, didn't even break stride. Some things don't need words. At lunch, Amani slid into the seat across from her. You hear what Coach said? She asked. Zariah nodded. Wrestling team, I'm thinking about it. You'd kill it. I ain't doing it for attention. I know, Amani said. Do it for you. That afternoon, during gym, Coach handed Zariah a permission slip and a practice schedule. Her name was already on the roster. You're not the only one who needed this, he said. Some of these girls, they've been waiting for someone like you. Zariah held the paper in her hand for a long moment. Not because she was unsure, but because for the first time since she got there, she felt like maybe she wasn't just surviving anymore. She was seen. That weekend, Marcia took her to get new sneakers, not because she asked, but because Marcia saw the shift too. You keep surprising me. You know that? She said as they walked through the store. Zariah cracked a smile. Good surprise or bad? Marcia laughed. Depends on the day. They left with a fresh pair of black and red trainers. Nothing flashy, but strong, durable, just like her. Monday morning, Zariah stood at the entrance of Franklin High, same hoodie, same calm face. But something in her walk was different. Kids stepped aside without even meaning to. Some nodded at her. Others didn't say a thing, but their silence was respect now, not dismissal. She saw the janitor by the lockers wiping something off a wall. She paused for a second, then kept moving. Respect didn't come easy, but she earned it. And more importantly, she kept her dignity while doing it. By the end of the semester, people knew her name. Not because she was loud, not because she was flashy, but because she carried herself with the kind of quiet power most people only dream of. Zariah never became the most popular girl in school. She didn't need to be. She became something more real than that. She became a reminder that strength doesn't always look the way people expect. It doesn't have to be loud or pretty or played for laughs. Sometimes it's a calm voice asking, "You sure?" right before everything changes. Because the strongest people aren't always the ones who raise their voice. Sometimes they're the ones who waited until it mattered most. This story isn't about fighting. It's about knowing your worth. It's about boundaries, about power that's earned, not performed. We live in a world that often rewards silence from the wrong people and attention to the wrong voices. But sometimes, the quiet ones are carrying the loudest truth. If you ever see someone being pushed around, say something. If you've ever been treated like you're invisible, remember who you are. And if the moment ever comes when you have to speak with your actions, make sure they remember your name.